The First Battle of Mount Hermon was fought at the outset of the Yom Kippur War between the Syrian Army and the Israel Defense Forces. On Yom Kippur, October 6, 1973, Syrian commandos attacked and captured the IDF outpost on Mount Hermon. 2 days later, the Syrians repelled an Israeli counterattack in the Second Battle of Mount Hermon. It was eventually recaptured by Israel on October 21 in the Third Battle. Background: at a height of about 6,600 feet, Mount Hermon has a commanding view of the Galilee. After Israel's capture of it in the Six-Day War, it was used as a radar outpost, housing some of the IDF's most sensitive and secret electronic equipment. Israel also constructed an approach road and a ski lift. The troops manning the Hermon outpost could view the entire Syrian plain bordering on the Purple Line. There were observation posts on the outpost itself and at the upper level of the ski lift. The outpost was constructed with much help from the Druze living in the Golan. In April 1970, Colonel Hikmat Shahabi, chief of Syrian military intelligence, sent a letter with Sergeant Major Nosy Tufik Abisala. Salah, who was also related to Kanj, crossed the border on foot and delivered the letter, which asked Kanj to provide details regarding Israeli positions. Kanj agreed and carried out his mission. He was caught by the Israeli Military Intelligence Directorate in May 1971. He was pardoned in June 1973. The Hermon outpost was considered strategically important for several reasons, such as gathering early warning information, real-time intelligence collection, conducting electronic warfare against ground or air attack, artillery spotting on the Damascus Plain, using the Hermon Ridge in its western slopes for a strategic flanking move towards Syria, conducting operations in Syria and Lebanon, and commanding Israel's main water sources. The outpost was isolated in its sector with only a narrow access road connecting it to the Golan Heights and Shabaa Farms. It was made up of 3 levels. An underground section of bunkers for quarters, ammunition, food and water, and 2 above-ground stories which contained the workrooms, laboratories, infirmary, mess, generators, and observation and guard posts. When the war broke out, the outpost was still under construction and fighting positions, communication trenches and a command position were not yet built. The outpost was situated in the 13th Battalion's sector, but was commanded by Lieutenant Gadi Zidova from the 820th Regional Brigade, whose operational subordination was not properly classified. On Yom Kippur there were 60 soldiers in the outpost. 13 of them were 13th Battalion infantrymen, the rest were men from support units, artillerymen, non-commissioned officers from the Israeli Northern Command and Regional Brigade Intelligence, and maintenance soldiers from the 820th Brigade. Some of the officers and soldiers had only arrived between October 4 and October 6 with just their personal weapons, others were unarmed. Most of them were not familiar with the layout of the outpost or with the sector in general. A section of troops were assigned to defend it. On Yom Kippur, October 6, 1973, 55 men were in the outpost, including the defense section from the Golani Brigade, men from the Israeli Air Force and intelligence personnel manning the electronic equipment. NC estimated that the Hermon was not a major axis of advance, and would therefore not be subject to a major attack, only routine raids. The fortifications were built to withstand artillery fire and air bombardments, but the trench system was incomplete. A week before the war, an anti-aircraft battery was moved down to the Golan. Prelude. On Friday, October 5, the outpost reported a vast concentration of Syrian forces on the plain below. The Israeli soldiers were ordered to be on the alert. They shut themselves in the main bunker. The next morning, the observation posts were manned as usual and routine reconnaissance along the approach routes took place. An alert was ordered, but for some reason the Hermon outpost was not reinforced by the required 14-man infantry section. The security routine was maintained and included a foot patrol to secure the access road from the outpost to the lower level of the ski lift. It was conducted by the Golani troops and commanded by the platoon commander, 2nd Lieutenant Haggai Funk. Only 2 infantrymen were left to guard the outpost. After the patrol, the infantrymen returned to the outpost, except for 3 men who took up positions in an under-construction observation post on a hill north of the upper ski lift. 1 observation point and 2 guard positions were manned in the outpost itself. 3 watchers were deployed at dawn between Shabbat Farms and the lower ski lift, manned by members of the same company, but were subordinated throughout the day to the 902nd Nahal Battalion in Shabbat Farms. Shortly before 1400, a new blocking company from the 374th Communications Unit, under the command of Lieutenant Moshe Sapir, arrived at the tank curve, and located its equipment according to NC orders. Due to coordination problems, its arrival was unknown to the outpost commander and the Hermon company commander at the employment camp in Meseda. The Syrians had put the Hermon at the top of their target list. The 82nd Paratroop Battalion, the elite combat unit of the Syrian Army, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Ahmed Rifai al-Joju, was given its final briefing on the morning of the attack. Al-Joju's company was to be landed by helicopter half a mile from the Israeli structure and take up positions covering the Israeli outpost and the road leading toward it from the Golan. The rest of the battalion, about 200 men, were to set out on foot from the Syrian-controlled Hermon. This force was to attack the outpost while al-Joju's troops would provide them with covering fire. The plan used data collected through Kanj